given the fact that we're doing this many series of career chats, and I definitely want to thank Rashida for definitely coming over. She is an assistant public defender for Maryland Office of the Public Defender. I'm correct. She's a John Jay alum from 2011 with a bachelor's in English and a minor in sociology. And definitely got her law degree over at Howard University. But I could talk about all these great, wonderful things, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the floor to Rashida Germain, and I'm going to ask everyone if you could please be muted. She'll be talking about her journey and her experiences up to this point in her career journey. And after 15 or 20 minutes, we'll have a Q&A. So this is your chance to ask questions, and I definitely want to make this open for all students. You can put them in the chat. You can raise your hand, or you want to come out, that's perfectly fine. I'm recording this, and this also will be in our career chats website. So if things come up and you forgot that question, you didn't write it down, we'll definitely have it up and running for you folks. But without further ado, I will definitely keep my mouth shut at this point. And welcome, Rashida, and thank you for taking the time, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here to share what it's like to be a public defender with you guys. If you're interested in pursuing this career path, or if you're just interested in, going to law school as a John Jay alumni. I went to John Jay. I graduated in 2011, so it'll be almost 10 years next month that I graduated from John Jay. And honestly, I loved my experience there. I made great connections with all of my professors in the English department. And I decided to become an English major because it was one of the new majors. I was like a part of the second group of students to graduate with that degree, the English degree. I decided to pursue the English major mostly because I knew I wanted to go to law school, and I knew that it would require a lot of reading and writing. And I wanted to, obviously excel in whatever major I had, because to get into law school, you have to have excellent grades to get into a really great law school. So English is something that I was always good at, and something that I loved. I love to read and write. So that's why I chose the English degree, but more specifically because they had a concentration in literature and law when I was pursuing that degree. So I was able to combine reading and writing with, law. So I would have classes on crime and punishment, how the law intersects with literature, and reading 19th century literature, and like how the law is present in those types of works. So that's why I think the English degree was so important for me in my journey to becoming an attorney. In addition to sociology, I think it's important as an attorney, especially if you're going to be doing public service work like public defense. You kind of have to have a grasp on how society functions, what kind of structures exist, and how and why they exist, which is why I minored in sociology, and I think that's definitely been helpful. Also, the English degree, I think, definitely helps you work on besides writing, your ability to analyze things and be a critical thinker, which is very important. If you're going to be an attorney, you need to be able to think critically. And as a public defender, you have to be quick on your feet and be able to grasp things quickly. So I would highly recommend the English major. Other people major in political science or criminal justice, which I think you can really major in anything if you wanted to go to law school, as long as you excel in whatever degree you decide to pursue. I think you'll be fine, because when you get to law school, that's when you're going to learn how to practice law, basically. I think another question that was asked was, what role did internships play in my journey? I did one legal internship while I was in college. I worked for a solo practitioner. He did medical malpractice and personal injury law. So I worked at his law firm, and he showed me the ropes. And I think that was my first experience really working physically in the legal field. Other than that, I didn't really intern a lot in college, because I was supporting myself. I think you guys know, if you live in New York or if you're from New York, I'm from New York. It's a commuter school, so a lot of people are working and going to school at the same time to support themselves. So I had like regular jobs throughout college as well. But I think that was significant for me to get my feet wet in the legal field. And then after I graduated from John Jay, I secured a fellowship with the New York City Urban Fellows, which still exists today. And if you're interested in public policy work or interested in becoming an attorney, I think it's a great pit stop before you go to law school, which is what I did. I took a year off and did the fellowship with New York City Urban Fellows. And what it is a 9-month fellowship where they take students from, all across the country, really, from colleges, and they place them in high level positions in New York City government. So people were placed at the mayor's office. I personally worked for the Department of Corrections. I was at the commissioner's office there. And in addition to you getting a job placement for 9 months, you're also doing, workshops every week and learning about public policy and how it affects the way New York City is run. So obviously a great way to network with people and to meet, really important high-level people. I was able to meet Michael Bloomberg. He was the mayor at the time that I did the fellowship. So I think that if you're interested in public policy work, or if you're like, I don't know what to do when I graduate, I don't want to go straight to law school, definitely check out the New York City Urban Fellows program. It's a really great way to network with people and just to, experience, I guess, high-level government policy work. I chose to work at the Department of Corrections specifically because of a class that I took at John Jay. I had a class, I did the honors track for the English major, and I had to do an independent study in one of those specialty courses. And I did it with Professor Dreisinger. I know she's still around. She really inspired me to get involved with mass incarceration and fight against that, which is why I decided I wanted to be a public defender. I had a course with her that was like my last classes for the English degree. And it really just enlightened me and opened my eyes to something that obviously was right in my face that I wasn't really aware of, that so many people were being incarcerated, especially people of color. Poor people of color were being incarcerated, and the conditions that they were kept in these prisons and jails, were terrible. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna go do policy work at the Department of Corrections for New York City. I did work on Rikers Island, which was very interesting to see how, the facility was run. I know they're gonna start taking it down soon, but at the time, I was working on constituent complaints and just working on policies for the transgender population there and how they were housed, dealing with the complaints from family members regarding their loved ones who were incarcerated at Rikers Island. I was working with the juvenile population as well, trying to create activities for the youth that were being held at Rikers Island, so their juvenile population. So I was doing a lot of policy work there for the 9 months that I was doing the fellowship, and my experience there really like solidified my decision to become a public defender, because I hated to see how many people were being incarcerated and held in such terrible conditions. So I was like, well, I want to make sure that I can, help people and try to help them avoid, facing sentences or being held while they await a trial date. So that's why I decided, public defense is something that I wanted to pursue. And eventually I went to law school after I finished the fellowship. I studied in Washington, D.C. at Howard University School of Law. And while there, I made sure that I was active on the trial advocacy team. I made sure that I was participating in a law review, so making sure that I was continuing to write about issues regarding criminal justice reform. And then while I was there, if you're not familiar with like how law school works, before you can get to law school, you'll have to take the LSAT. So I did that while I was at John Jay. I sat for the LSAT. It's like SATs for law school, right? So you take that exam and you use that with your law school grades and degree, and you write an essay or whatever the law school's application process requires. You submit all of that stuff. You get into law school. And then your first year, they call it the 1L year. You take all the foundational law school courses like constitutional law, torts, contracts, criminal law, a writing course usually. And then you have that course like for the entire year. You sit with the same students for the entire year. And so that's your 1L year. And after your 1L year, you have to secure a job. And my first job opportunity in law school, my 1L year, was working for, it was going to be working for the Virginia Indigent Defense. So it was a public defender's office for Virginia. I ended up not accepting that position because I was offered another opportunity to do entertainment law. And I was really excited about it because it was something different. And obviously, you know, who wouldn't want to, you know, experience, you know, practicing entertainment law where you can work on musical contracts or, you know, television contracts with, you know, pretty well-known celebrities. So I took that opportunity because it was paid, and working for the public defender's office was not paid. And so that's one of the things that you have to consider when, you know, pursuing a public service job in the legal field. Most of the internships are not paid. And if you have to take care of yourself and you don't have the financial means to kind of live outside of, you know, whatever student loan you have, you'll have to take that into consideration because most schools will not allow you to work. You won't have the time to work full-time or even part-time while you're in law school. It's really probably very impossible unless you're in a part-time program. But if you're in a full-time program, it's very time-consuming, a lot of reading, not a lot of writing. Most of law school is, unless you're taking a writing class, is a lot of reading. You read a lot of cases a night. I would say you read between 50 to 100 plus pages, you know, for your law school classes a night. And it can be a lot of work. So you won't really have time to work on the side in addition to going to school. So I took a paid job my first year in law school, which was great. I learned a lot working there. And then I did my second year of law school, which is your 2L year, where you have a little bit more flexibility and you can kind of choose which courses you want to take. So they're not just the foundational courses. You will still have a few like constitutional law, you may still have another writing class that's required. But after that, you kind of have the freedom to choose, I guess they'll be considered electives that you want to pursue. So if you're interested in immigration law, you can take an immigration law class. If you're interested in business law, you can take a business law class. I think, I can't really remember what law school classes I took my second year. And it really doesn't matter. You take whatever you're interested in learning, because ultimately when you graduate from law school, you can practice any kind of law that you would like. It's just really based off of what kind of experiences you've had and what you're interested in. So my second year of law school, I got an internship with Legal Aid Society in New York City. And they offered me a position in like family law in Staten Island. And I was living in DC and I was like, well, can I keep my apartment in DC and work in New York? And it didn't make sense at the end of the day. So I ended up passing up on that opportunity and working for a firm in DC for that summer, doing medical malpractice again and personal injury law, which again is not criminal defense, but it was just another opportunity for me to, you know, pay my way through the summer until law school started again. And then after that, third year of law school, I mean, your 2L summer is really important because that's usually where students get their final job offers from, sorry, I have a puppy here that's barking. That's where most students get their final offer from for when they graduate from law school. So they'll work, some people work at a firm during their 2L year if they're interested in that, or if they work for a legal aid society or a public defender's office, they typically will get a permanent offer. So upon graduation, they'll be allowed to continue to work there. Because I didn't, work at a criminal defense firm or organization upon my 2L summer, I didn't have that offer on my 3L summer. So I spent my 3L summer preparing just for the bar. And then after I took the bar, I started looking for work. And then I ended up working in probate in Virginia. But during my 3L year of law school, I did work as a student attorney in our criminal justice clinic, which I think is also important if you're thinking about going to law school, regardless of what kind of law you want to go to, but specifically in criminal defense, or if you wanted to be a prosecutor, for example, you want to pick a law school that has some kind of clinic opportunity so that you can have firsthand experience representing people who are charged with crimes. Our clinic, the criminal justice clinic at Howard, we were able to get assigned clients and carry their cases from arraignment all the way until their trial date, and whether they were convicted or found not guilty, we had those opportunities, which I think helped me get my position now as a public defender in Baltimore City. After I graduated from law school and I started working for the probate office in Virginia, that's wills, trust, and estates work and guardianship work. If you're interested in that kind of law, that's a separate conversation. But after working there, I got a position at the Office of the Public Defender, and I've been there for almost 2.5 years now. And every day, I think, is a constant fight for justice, obviously for my clients, for indigent people. I love the work that I do because I feel like a lot of the times that people who are charged with crimes have no one in their corner. It's literally them versus an entire system. And for people who are poor, it can be especially difficult for them to, come up against a system as, strong as the US, government, or Baltimore City government, or New York City government, or whatever state you're in. But most times these people have, a lot of trauma in their life and a long history of being marginalized and disadvantaged. So I think that it's important for people who care about those issues to be proactive in defending these individuals. So that's why I do the work that I do, why I love doing the work that I do. There are a lot of resources out there for law students and college students if you're interested in learning more about, the criminal justice system and how you can be an active member. Because you guys are in New York City and I'm in Maryland, I still know a lot of organizations in New York. Vera Institute in New York is a good resource. Obviously, you can look up the ACLU, they do great work. They have the Bronx Defender's Office, they have Brooklyn Defenders, they have Legal Aid. There are so many, organizations and defenders, firms, I guess they would be considered in New York City, that you can just reach out to and see if you can intern there or help out. I think that New York is a great place to be. I just so happen to come to school in Washington, D.C. and stay out in the DMV area. But if you're interested in, criminal defense or just any kind of social justice work revolving criminal justice reform, I think that you should definitely check out those organizations, as well as if you're interested in going to law school, they have organizations like Clio Inc. They help with students, preparing for law school. There's also Fordham Law, which is right around the corner from John Jay. I know when I was at John Jay, we had a relationship with them. The Pre-Law Institute had a relationship with their law students, and we would be able to go to their law classes and just sit and observe. And they would have training opportunities or just like these sessions where you can just chat with law students or professors. So that's a resource that you guys can look into. Also look up Gideon's Promise. Our jobs as public defenders are to represent indigent people. That's a huge case and a deciding factor in why people are allowed to have public defenders. So you should definitely look up that. I'm trying to think of what else. There are lots of resources, but I'll give you the floor back so that we can get some questions. Maybe I can give you more specific information. Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry about that. So if any folks have any questions, you're more than welcome to write it on the chat, or you can ask as well by talking. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Vanisha, and I just want to say that I liked your presentation. It was very inspiring. I actually am beginning to study for the LSAT coming up. I start studying June 1st, and I also do want to go to Howard University, and I have this really great interest in criminal defense and stuff like that. And so as an attorney, what is your caseload like? How many hours a week do you work and stuff like that?
Honestly, it's insane. It's crazy. I was just telling Edwin that even after I hang up with you guys, I'm going to be doing more work because I have court tomorrow. It's a high caseload and it's a lot of work. You have to really, really love this work and care about these clients in order to continue to do this kind of work. Most people burn out very quickly. I cannot lie, I'm tired. It's very emotionally taxing to deal with people who, are facing one of their lowest moments of their lives. But I love doing this work. I wouldn't change it for, anything else. I think typically I have about 15 to 20 cases on one docket, and usually public defenders handle dockets. So that means that you'll go into court with 15 to 20 cases a day. And usually you're not in court Monday through Friday, but maybe 3 or 4 days a week, you may be in court with that many cases. And so you have to obviously call your clients and prepare those cases. We have investigators that are available to help investigate, but sometimes you just investigate yourself by interviewing different people, your client, the witnesses, and then you speak to the prosecuting attorney and see, how they want to proceed with the case, what kind of offer they're going to make your client, or if it's something that, is worth definitely going to trial over. If there are legal issues or factual issues, then you would definitely try to encourage your client to have a trial. But the one thing about being a public defender is that you have to do what your client wants you to do. So this is not something where you're like, I want to have a trial, and so we're going to have a trial. And that's what I thought originally. I was like, I will never have my client plead guilty to anything. Everything's going to be a trial. They have to prove that my client did it. And at least for the Office of the Public Defender, it's client-centered, right? So whatever your client wants to do is what you're going to do. Obviously, you're going to advise your client because you're the attorney and have them weigh their options. But it's definitely a lot of work. I do work late night sometimes. I do work on the weekends sometimes. And I think it's just because I feel like my clients deserve, that kind of work. I don't think this is the kind of job where you can say, I'm only working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and that's it. It definitely goes beyond that and interferes with your personal life. But I don't think it's unbearable, depending on what office you're at. especially.
So how do you balance the two, work and then like your personal life, being that this is like not a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday thing?
I think one, my husband is very understanding. He is growing to be more passionate about these issues as well, because I'm always talking about work. I think that you just have to know where to, set your boundaries and draw the line. Like I have clients that call, they have my like Google Voice number. So it comes directly to my cell phone. They'll call me at like 6 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I have to say, I'm not going to answer the phone, right? Because there's nothing that I can do for you at 2 o'clock in the morning. The courts are closed, right? And yeah, I can speak to you and, lend a ear. Sometimes I will extend that courtesy to certain clients because I know that they don't have anyone else to talk to, but you have to create your boundaries and be firm in them and, let your clients know, like, yes, I care about you. I do care about your case, but I will give you a call back when I have more information or, at this time. And as long as you're able to do that, I think you'll be happy and you'll be able to find a proper balance. I mean, most people don't have, families. And a lot, at least when I started working this job, a lot of people said, a lot of us have gotten divorces because of this job, right? Because it does interfere with your personal life. But I think if you have a partner who understands and who supports you, I think you'll be fine. I also have kids, so I make time for, my children. Right. I'm like, that's it. I'm not working anymore today. And I cut it off.
Okay. I do have another question. So you said after your 1L year, you have to secure a job in like a clinic or whatever. How was your experience with legal clinics and going to school at the same time?
So the clinics are actually a course that you'll take in law school. So you'll get credits for that, which is definitely like helpful. My clinic was like 12 credits. So, and it was a whole year long. But it's difficult because you are representing real life people. This isn't like a mock client, mock trial, or pretend client. These are people who are actually charged with crimes that you're responsible for. And you'll have a supervising attorney, which will likely be your professor, who's walking you through the case and how to prepare it, how to talk to your client. And they train you on how to do all of that. But I think it's really essential for this kind of work or any kind of litigation work, like even if you wanted to do civil litigation and be in a courtroom, you need to get that kind of experience either in a learning setting where you have a professor kind of walking you along the way, or through an internship where you have an attorney who's training you on how to do it, because it'll be really difficult to graduate from law school and have never stepped a foot in a courtroom and then expect to know how to handle things and do what you need to do. Most jobs obviously are going to train you, but a lot of them, especially public defender's offices, want to see that you've had that experience already before they even consider hiring you. So that's why I say definitely consider choosing law schools that have clinics in the areas that you're interested in. So it doesn't necessarily have to be criminal defense if you're not interested in that, but it could be intellectual property law that you're interested in. And so you want a school who does intellectual property.
Okay. And you said your first year of law school, the 1L, would be a lot of like foundational courses. How many courses would you take per semester?
I can't remember. I feel like it was like five, maybe 6. I don't know. Okay. But yeah, it's all the courses, all the things that are tested on the bar exam, you will have like your first year of law school. Okay. So, like contracts, sports. But yeah, all the like foundational law school courses, and it's across like every law school, every 1L will be taking those foundational courses. And then as you go to your second and third year of law school, you'll have more freedom to select variety of courses.
Okay. I'll give someone else a chance to answer. I just have a lot of questions.
You can ask away if no one else.
Ask away.
I can't see anyone else.
Folks, just I hope it's a reminder. You could write if you're a little shy. It's perfectly understandable. You could write on the chat, and I kind of want to stress, no question is a dumb question. This is new, and it's expected. So please, fire away.
What is your favorite thing about Howard University?
I think it's the relationships that you get to build with other students. It's great, I think, to be in an environment where everyone's just cool and it's not a competition. And that's definitely the vibe at Howard. It's like family. And till this day, even if I meet someone who graduated from Howard 20 years before I got there, it's all love and they're willing to share resources. And I remember like your first week at Howard, they do a pinning ceremony where they have all of the new law students come in and we all get a pen that says like JD Howard. And it gets pinned on us by either a loved one or a Howard alum. And it's a whole ceremony that Howard does because they want you to feel like you're a part of a community that, you're cared about. You get a mentor. And most times they give you your law school books. They're like, you don't have to buy books. We'll give you our books from last year. So if you're interested in going to Howard, I highly recommend it. And it's not just for people of color, Howard. I have a friend who went there. She's not a person of color. She graduated with me. She loved it. I think if you're looking for an environment to learn in where it's not, I need the highest grade, because law school is graded on a curve, like only 4 A's are given out, and then you guys the rest of you fall on a curve, and like, or people are going to fail the course or get the lowest grades of the course. You don't have to.
Howard is a bell curve school?
All law schools are a bell curve. But other law schools are like, people are so competitive because they're like, I have to be at the top of the class, that it's hard to build relationships with people. You don't have that problem at Howard.
Okay.
We have a question here in the chat from Alondra. Do you have advice for how to prepare the LSATs exam and bar exam?
I did use a testing service. I used Kaplan to prepare for the bar exam and for the LSAT. For the LSAT, I remember I went to the Kaplan course and I sat there and I learned the logic of the LSAT and did all the practice tests. I think what's important is that you figure out how you learn, because these courses are, kind of, they think one size fits all. And if you learn a different way, you may have to like tweak, how you're retaining the information. So I would definitely recommend taking a course. Which course you take is up to you. There are different courses. There's Barbary, there's Kaplan. I think if you research different LSAT courses, you can find them, but I definitely would recommend, and most of them say if you don't, score well or whatever, they'll give you your money back. And if you don't, ask for your money back. But I definitely think you need that kind of course where someone is telling you like, this is how you take the test, so that you can perform well on it, because the grades, they do matter when you're applying to law school. And for the bar exam, obviously you need to score a certain amount to pass so that you can actually get a license to practice.
And here's another question in the chat. It has to be hard with criminal cases. How do you deal with having to tell these people about risks they may be taking? It's, I would say, a two-part question. And when they're making the wrong decision, how do you mentally handle that for yourself too?
Oh, that is such a good question. I'm going to start with the first one though.
We're gonna take a bit by bit.
It's hard. It is hard to deal with criminal cases. I think when you're doing felony cases, it's even harder because you're dealing with murders and rapes and like really, intense crimes. Right now, I'm just doing like misdemeanors. So they're not that they're less significant or have a less impact on people's lives, but it's like theft and burglary and trespass, driving under the influence of alcohol, basic assaults, thefts, stuff like that. So you start off kind of, doing cases that are, misdemeanors, where the maximum time that a person can get is not, 20 to life. So it's difficult because your client can go to jail if you go to trial and you lose, or if you decide, okay, it's best that you accept this plea, or your client's like, I don't want to have a trial, I want a plea, and you know that they're going to go to jail. You just have to be client-centered. You have to say, okay, this is what my client wants. It doesn't matter what I want. It really doesn't matter what I think, because at the end of the day, it's their life. And no one would want someone else to kind of make that decision for them, right? If it were you in your client's shoes, you would want someone who's, compassionate, who's considerate, who's, advising you, but who's also listening to you. So it's definitely hard, but you find the balance, I guess, through practice and working through your cases and dealing with different clients. When you have to tell people how, like, that the decision that they're making is risky. I'll give you an example. I had a trial for an assault case. And in Maryland, an assault in the second degree carries a maximum of 10 years of incarceration. So that's a significant amount of jail time. And I had a client who was charged with assaulting his child's mother's new boyfriend. And the allegations were that he stabbed the other guy. And my client said, I want to have a trial because I don't know this person, like, they're making it up. And I think even you guys are probably like, what? Like, he's making it up, but you said that he was his child's mother's boyfriend. Like, so he must know who he is, at least who he looks like, which is what any jury would think. Like, that I don't believe that he doesn't know you. Like, why would he say it's you for no reason? So I had the conversation with my client and I was like, this is what the state is offering you if you plead guilty. This is what can happen if you decide to go to trial. You can get up to 10 years. This is what defenses we can assert on your behalf. And I told him, like, based off of the story that he told me, like, you have a valid self-defense that we could put on. And the client did not want to go with the self-defense defense. He felt like, no, I want to go with, I don't know him, like, it wasn't me. And so I had to put on that defense. And unfortunately, we lost that trial. And my client was sentenced to 10 years of incarceration. So it hurt me to not lose a case, but it hurt me to see my client, who was only, I think he was only 19 at the time, have to, go to jail for 10 years. And obviously we've appealed the case, but it was a decision that he had to make for himself that I didn't necessarily agree with, but I had to carry out his wishes. So it's definitely hard. I felt really bad about it for a very long time. But at the end of the day, I had to be okay with it because I did what my client wanted me to do. So it's definitely hard to deal with those issues, especially when you know that they're making the wrong decision. And yeah, just handling it mentally. You just have to learn to be okay with doing what your client wants, because that's what, your job is. No matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how well you know the judge, no matter how well you know the attorney, the prosecuting attorney, no matter how well you know that set of facts, because assault's law is like, did a person have an unlawful or harmful contact with the other person that's not justified or consented to? That's an assault. So if I spit on you, if I punch you, if I push you, if I threaten you, it doesn't always have to be a physical touch. I can threaten to punch you in the face. And if you believe that I can actually punch you in the face, right, it can be an assault. So it varies so much, but an assault is an assault is an assault. And sometimes you have clients who are like, well, I didn't even do much, or I didn't even say much. And it's like, sir or ma'am, this is still an assault, and you have to realize that you're facing real consequences. So we have to not think about, oh, I didn't really do much, versus this is what you're actually charged with, and these are the actual potential consequences. So it's definitely difficult, but when you win cases, it feels great. So sometimes people are charged and they didn't really do what they're accused of. And you take those cases to trial, and your clients are very happy, and they're like, thank you so much. And sometimes you lose and your client is like, thank you, because you stood up for me and no one else has ever stood up for me, or you fought for me and you really tried and we lost, but I still appreciate it. So you get those, losers that are still winners. Oh, yes. Yeah. With juvenile clients, especially in Baltimore City, I haven't lived in New York in a very long time. But at least in Baltimore City, which I know you guys probably hear about in the news every now and then, it's really wild out here. And a lot of the crimes, I think the more egregious crimes like armed robberies, sometimes they involve like younger clients. And it's really difficult to see, them make mistakes and then have to face the brunt of a criminal justice system that just oftentimes doesn't care that they're 15, 16, 17 years old, that their brain isn't fully developed, or that they come from a broken, family or community, or, that they're struggling at home. It's difficult. But I think that's part of our job as well, is to bring those realities to the courts and explain that to the judge and try to mitigate some of the harm that, our clients are going to be facing if they are convicted of a crime.
I have another question. So have you ever experienced discrimination or disrespect from your colleagues and or clients? And if so, how did you go about dealing with it in a professional way?
Absolutely. Not only because I'm a female, but also because I'm a female of color. It happens all the time, from the bench, the judges, from my colleagues, not necessarily other public defenders, but like prosecutors. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it's sad to say that like it's the nature of the job, because it shouldn't be. But I think, you learn how to deal with people in a professional manner and have conversations with people. When it comes to clients, most times I have to take a step back and say, this person is reacting this way because they're dealing with something difficult, and it's not about me, it's about the situation. And obviously they're frustrated. Obviously they're upset. It has, they're taking it out on me, and that's okay. If I'm the only outlet, then I'm okay with that, because most times no one is listening to them anyway. And I just remind them, like, I'm here to help you. And I'm gonna do what, I want to do what's best for you, and you have to, help me do that. Obviously, if it gets a little bit too out of control, I'm like, sir or ma'am, you have to calm down, because you can't just, talk to me however you want to. But when it comes from like colleagues and the bench, I feel like a lot of times, depending on what the situation is, or the relationship you have with the person, you can just like step aside and speak to them. Or sometimes you have to just go to your supervising attorneys and have them step in to assist with difficult situations. I don't think it happens that often though.
Okay.
But it has happened, but not often.
Questions? I have a question in the chat. Is it nerve-wracking going into the courtroom, or do you get used to it?
I think if you don't get nervous, you're probably not good at your job. Honestly, I think you have to have a little bit of nerves, because you're dealing with people facing serious charges, right? Even if it's just 60 days that your client can go to jail for, that's still 60 days. People can lose their homes, their jobs, everything. And even just 30 days, if it's you know, a sentence of 30 days or even a week, you just never know. People can lose their housing from getting a conviction. So everything is very high stakes. It is nerve wracking. I think more so when you're having a jury trial versus a trial before a judge. I think when you're having a trial before a judge, you kind of get a little bit more comfortable because you've been before the judge so many times, or you've had so many trials before the judge that you kind of build a relationship with the judge. You know how the judge is going to rule on certain issues. And so that nervousness isn't really there, but you still have the nervousness of, am I going to object at the right time for certain things? Or am I 100% fully prepared? Because everything is so fast paced in our offices, when we have such a high volume of cases, it's hard to prepare every single case to the T, where most people would be comfortable, or like most private attorneys will probably be more comfortable because they have more time to spend with cases. We don't have that luxury. So you still have that kind of nervousness, but I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you do get. So it's a different kind of nervousness.
We have about 8 minutes, folks. So if you have any questions, feel free.
Have you ever worked in a private law firm or just public defense?
I worked with private attorneys. I didn't ever work at a big firm or mid-sized firm or anything like that. I knew going into law school that I did not want to work at a big law firm. I was like, I cannot do billable hours and work, you know, around the clock on mergers and acquisitions. It's just not something that excited me. A lot of my friends went that route and they complain about it, I must tell you. They're happy because they get paid a lot of money, but they're not happy with the work-life balance. And I definitely wanted, obviously, to make sure that I had time for my children and my husband. And also that I was doing work that made me happy and satisfied me. So, no, I've never worked at a big firm. I don't know if I would I don't think I would ever like working at a big firm. Maybe a small firm with like a smaller group of attorneys, I think is doable, depending on what kind of work they did. But a big firm, no.
Would you ever work with Innocence Project?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of my goals. I'm a fellow there, and sadly my time there is coming to a close. But
You love it?
I loved it. It was such a great experience. I don't know if I could have asked for more. And I didn't know how much I would love it. I mean, growing up, I've always had this idea that I wanted to do criminal defense and defend those who couldn't defend themselves, because, you know, everything is unequal. There's no real balance of justice for disproportionate groups of people. And so figuring out that there's a whole entire nationwide initiative focused on just that sparked an excitement in me. And then I finally, not out of the blue, but I finally got to fellow there, and it was great. So if I had to, if I wanted to choose the big law firm, I would say that was the only choice I would go with, Innocence Project.
Yeah, good choice.
Thank you.
So if I can ask a question, I know we probably only have just a few more minutes. I'm just interested in where everyone else is at, like what year you're in, or if you're also an alumni, or if you were just curious as to what public defenders do. You can just write it in the chat if you're shy, but I am curious.
I'm still a freshman, but I really enjoyed this talk, so thank you. And I'm just kind of thinking about like if I want to go to law school or not. But if I do, like I would love to work in a public defender's office, and this was really great. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm happy. I feel like we need more public defenders. people who really care about the work. So if you're interested, I think you should definitely try to get an internship and get your feet wet. We need lots of help at public defenders' offices, so you'll get a lot of experience.
We had questions. I don't know if you see the chat, Rashida, but I'm sorry I'm not speaking. Okay. Fabio's very loud. Don't worry. Fabios are very loud. That's what I'm supposed to do. I have 2 kids myself, so don't worry. I'm 46 years young, junior at John Jay. Will I be going to law school? I'll be going to law school.
That's awesome.
Great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I like the grit.
Yes. Yeah. When I went to law school, my daughter was 3, and then I had a child in law school. So it was insane. Yeah, I think I wish you the best of luck. And congratulations on deciding to pursue law. It's definitely an experience in law school. But good luck.
I commend you all, especially parents, going to school this year. I've never had that, and I can't imagine that. And I'm really amazed and astounded the grit and the determination and the will to juggle those 2 things. It really amazes me. So congrats to you folks.
Yes.
Oh, 18-year-old. Well, I have to talk to you later about that one then, because I have a preteen.
Yeah,
So,
I have a teenager now. We need to chat.
I have a preteen. I have a daughter, and my son's right around the corner, but I don't think it hasn't kicked in yet. But I'm learning a new human being.
Yes. Yeah, it's great. I think you can always go back to school.
Any other questions, final questions before we all go?
Anyone an English major?
I'm philosophy major.
That'll get you thinking.
I'm leaving you guys in a little secret. I'm married to an English major, so English is great. I'm just gonna keep that quiet so she doesn't hear me in the background.
That's funny. My husband also went to John Jay, and he was a part of the first group of English graduates.
Oh,
Spanish
awesome.
Major,
Great.
criminology. Nice. I think I started off in the criminology, and then I went to like legal studies, and then I went to English. So I did bounce around in majors. Minor in English. Yes, English department is great. Even if you're not in that like major and you take courses, like an English class, I can like name professors that are amazing that I know are still there. Professor Pease was great. Obviously Dreisinger, Professor Gray, Professor PJ Gibson, Professor Mills. Who else?
Do you say Pease as in Allison Pease?
Yes, I love
think
her.
She's one of the provosts at the school. I think she's great.
Yeah, she moved up.
Yeah.
Who else? Professor Escher. Professor Hyman, Carbonell. Like I remember all of my English professors because they were so great. And it was like when the English major was just like cooking up. But they all taught me so much. Also, I took a speech class at John Jay. Professor Beckett. I don't know if he's still around.
Everyone loves Professor Beckett. He's still around, yes.
Yes. If you're interested in being an attorney and being a litigator and you want to get some courtroom swag, I think you should take a speech class. Professor Beckett was awesome. I had him my freshman year at John Jay. But yeah, a lot of those professors are still there. Take advantage of your professors, no matter what major you're in. They are incredible resources. I still have relationships with a lot of them. They can write you recommendations. when you're applying for scholarships or jobs or whatever. I mean, they're great resources. They can point you in the right direction. So definitely make a point to build relationships with your professors, especially the ones that you really like and you enjoy their classes.
All right, folks, I think we're at the end here. I'd like to thank Rashida so much for taking the time, giving us wisdom and some great encouragement. It's amazing. I'm glad we got in touch, and definitely we'll be having more of these type of sessions. Thank you, students, as well, for showing up and coming in here and utilizing every sort of resource you guys can. But again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And again, thank you, Rashida. Can't thank you enough. And hopefully we'll be in touch and we'll have plenty more of these.
Yes, thank you for having me. Good luck, everyone. Obviously, if you're looking to speak with me more, I don't know if you have my information, you can just share my information with them, or you can just find me on LinkedIn and send me a message. And I'll be more than happy to help you and answer questions as you're going through the LSAT or just undergrad and when you get to law school or as you're applying.
My email in the chat, so if anyone wants information, definitely you could email me and I'll definitely connect you with Rashida. And that'll be great. All right. Thank you, folks. And stay safe, please. We're getting to normal hopefully soon. Hopefully sooner than later. And again, thank you so much, Rashida. And thank you, students, for taking the time and coming in the evening.
Yes, thank you.
I know it's not an easy thing being that we're in Zoom and we're probably zoomed out at this point, but I appreciate the grit and I appreciate your time and as well, Rashida, thank you for coming again, okay?
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
So much. Have a good night.